Hello everyone, welcome back to Maranatha Call. My name is Micah, and I wanted to share with you guys today two verses that stood out to me. I wasn't looking for them, but in my devotions, my time with the Lord the other day, they kind of jumped off the page and something hit me that is very exciting. And let me start by saying that we have all heard or thought ourselves, or maybe both, when talking about and thinking about the Lord's coming, and not just the rapture, but his final coming, the end of all things, the start of the millennial kingdom, and the timing of it. We've all heard the argument that, we could be in that time, but it could also be another 1,000 years. It could be another couple hundred years. We just don't know, and it probably is going to be at least another 1,000 years. Well, these verses, to me, pretty much prove that we are the generation, and we are in the time, and we are going to see it. So, this is from Joel chapter 3, the first two verses. Now, before I read them, let me preface with, we have to have at first an understanding of the judgments, the final judgments. And there's a judgment for the church, the Bema Seat of Christ, where every believer will stand. And then there's a judgment of the nations after that, which takes place right after the tribulation, right before the millennial kingdom, when the nations are judged based on how they treated Israel. Those nations that remain after the tribulation. And then there's the Great White Throne, which is the final judgment after the millennial kingdom. Now, there are scriptures to easily lay that out and back that up. I don't have time in this video to go over those. But with that understanding, let me read these verses and then I'll talk about them. So this is Joel chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. For behold, in those days and at that time, when I bring back the captives of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I will enter into judgment with them there, on account of my people, my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. So this is talking about God entering into judgment with those nations right before he sets up the millennial kingdom, or it's kind of the beginning of that. But when is this happening? Based on this scripture, listen to the first verse again. For behold, in those days and at that time, what time and what days is he talking about? When I bring back the captives of Judah and Jerusalem, those scattered among the nations. That's the time of the end. That's the time of the final generation, the fig tree generation. And that's the generation, guys, that we are in right now. Israel came back to the land about 70 years ago. We are in that generation. Generation is 70 to 80 years, based on the Psalm. And it's those days and at that time that the judgment of the nations will finally come. So in other words, it can't go on another 1,000 years, another couple hundred years. We are the generation, guys. It's coming. Jesus is coming. And therefore, because we know that judgment takes place at the end of the 7 years to start out the millennial kingdom. So in other words, the appearing of Christ, the gathering of Christ, of his bride, is going to be, it could be any day. In other words, based on this scripture, we know we're in that time, because that's going to happen before the tribulation. I've done a video, if you want to go back, the very first video on this channel, I went over the 3 basic verses that show the pre-tribulation rapture, that it has to happen before the tribulation. It's very simple, and I believe this scripture shows us we are in that time, without a doubt. So guys, keep looking up. Be encouraged. Our redemption is drawing nigh. Look up. Keep watch. Don't fall asleep. We're at that time. God bless you.